In 1980, Ronald Reagan decided to run for president against then President Jimmy Carter. Well, that election looked a little something like this. If you didn't catch on by that video though, it means that Jimmy Carter got destroyed. But seriously though, Ronald Reagan killed him though. It was 489 electoral votes to 49. I mean that's 91% of the electoral vote. But what's interesting about this is that Reagan actually only had 51% of the popular vote. This further supports the notion though that the electoral college is king. I also find it interesting that no Republican since Ronald Reagan has won the state of California or New York, two heavy liberal areas. That's like the Cleveland Browns winning the Super Bowl next year. When Reagan did swear into presidency though, he immediately changed things. He made major tax reforms in what we know today as Reaganomics. This is also called trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics is the belief that if you cut the taxes up here at the executive level of the business, it will eventually trickle down to the other people that are working at the bottom of the pyramid. The people ended up coining this as Reaganomics. You're probably getting bored of hearing me speak, so here's a video of me roller skating.
He needs some milk.
Yeah, that was a really painful fall. The Star Wars program was a proposed initiative to create a system that would defend the United States from interballistic missiles. While we actually did work on this, it was really just a hoax. The Soviet Union spent millions trying to figure out how they could create one of their own, only for Reagan to reveal that it was a lie the whole time. I guess you could say he was Ronald Reagan. Sorry y'all, I promised I would make a CSI Miami reference somewhere in this video. Another good thing about Ronald Reagan was how smooth of a talker he was. In one of the 1980 presidential debates against Jimmy Carter was on fire, roasting Ronald Reagan. Jimmy Carter made one remark about Reagan's age, to which Reagan replied, "I promised I would not let age become a factor in this debate. I will not let the youth and inexperience of my opponent come into play." The other thing I wanted to see was what other people thought of President Reagan. I decided to go out in public and ask people what they thought about President Reagan. Here were their responses. What was the most memorable thing to you about Reagan's presidency?
I would have to say the release of the hostages from the embassy. I think that was the most powerful image that he could present to America, and showing America that, hey, we are a sovereign nation. We go over there and we take care of business and we come home. That's right. Exactly what he did.
Sounds good. What do you think the most memorable thing to you about Reagan's presidency was?
When it was finally over.
What do you think the most memorable thing about Ronald Reagan was?
I'd have to say he was great in Bedtime with Bonzo.
Right, but what about his presidency?
He was president?
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
What do you think of Ronald Reagan?
Well, I tell you, a lot of people think negatively of Ronald Reagan because he did invest in the Taliban and Mujahideen, and he was friends with Osama bin Laden. But I would point out that he did kill the communists, so, you know, give and take, I guess. I'll take dead communists over the Twin Towers any day. Alright, that's it.
Very glad that my friend Jacob brought up that last point. What he was talking about was called Operation Cyclone. It was an operation in which Ronald Reagan provided funds to support the Mujahideen, a Muslim fighting group against the Soviet army in the Soviet war in Afghanistan. This is very similar to how the Soviets armed the Viet Cong in the Vietnam War against us. Can you see where both sides line up here in the Cold War? I also feel the need to talk about Ronald Reagan's cabinet. It included a lot of star-studded names. I mean, you got William Smith, Alexander Haig, George H.W. Bush, Bert Weinberger. He even had someone in his cabinet named Donald Reagan. There's so many names across Ronald Reagan's cabinet, you could probably make a Full House intro with it. During Reagan's presidency, an assassination attempt was made on his life. John Hinckley Jr. shot Ronald Reagan in the abdomen. Reagan was hospitalized for a very long time. However, when he recovered, his approval rating shot up sky high. Now goes down as one of the most loved presidents in U.S. history, to be one of the contributing factors. One of my favorite things about Reagan, though, is what he did with the Berlin Wall. During this time, East Germany and Western Germany were segregated. The Eastern side was under communist control. Gorbachev was the leader of Russia at the time. Reagan went to Germany and gave a speech to Gorbachev. He said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Gorbachev did. After his presidency, he developed Alzheimer's. This destroyed his brain and his memory. On June 5th, 2004, Ronald Reagan died. Some people claim to have seen the ghost of Ronald Reagan, but I don't really believe in ghosts. Well guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys had as much fun making this project as I did. Thank you for watching.